What's good, YouTube? It's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV, back at y'all with another one. So, former two-division world champion, former junior welterweight unified world champion, former WBC welterweight world champion, Danny Swift Garcia, superstar boxer, will be taking on his toughest task yet as he steps in the ring December 5th, this upcoming Saturday night in Dallas, Texas, AT&T Stadium, Cowboy Stadium, Jerry's World, against undefeated, unified WBC IBF welterweight world champion superstar boxer Errol the True Spence Jr. This is the long-awaited return of Errol Spence Jr. after 12 days after unifying the titles against former two-time welterweight world champion superstar boxer Showtime Shawn Porter September 28th. Errol Spence Jr. suffered a horrific car accident October 10th. So just 12 short days later, after achieving such a high accomplishment within the sport of boxing, Errol Spence suffered what could have been fatal for him. But above all, he survived. And with that said, Danny Swift Garcia will be taking on Errol Spence Jr., and this is the long-awaited return. Everybody is intrigued. Everybody wants to see how Errol Spence looks. Is Errol Spence going to be the same? Everybody thought, there's tons of people that felt like Errol Spence would never physically and mentally be the same, let alone step back in the ring in a sport of boxing at a high level. Well, Errol Spence is out to prove everybody wrong. But longtime trainer, father, and manager of Danny Garcia, Angel Garcia, and Danny Garcia himself, they believe, after seeing Errol Spence in person, that there's some lingering effects. They said that they know that there's some lingering effects from the car accident. They could see that that's a man, after physically seeing him in person, today was the press conference, they physically could see that he's not the same guy. There's some lingering effects. And they are highly confident that they're going to expose that and they're going to be successful on Saturday night. With that said, we don't know if they got some inside information or there's a source that's telling them, some inside news on Errol Spence Jr. But according to Errol Spence Jr. himself, Errol Spence Jr. says that he's 1,000% healthy and he's going to be a better version than we saw going into the Shawn Porter fight. He says that he didn't find a new love for the sport of boxing, but he's rededicated himself to the sport of boxing. He has a newfound appreciation for the sport of boxing and what the sport of boxing awards him, right? The lifestyle he lives, able to feed his family. He said, I'm the breadwinner. I got to take care of my kids. He has 2 daughters and now just have the new birth of his son. So he says, I got to take care of my kids. I got to take care of my family. He said prior to this, I took the sport for granted. In between fights, as I got bigger, as far as population goes in the sport, the more accomplishments I accomplished, the more time I took in between fights to celebrate. He said it originally went from 1 week to 2 weeks to 3 weeks to a month to 2 months to 3 months. Then it eventually got to, I only started returning to the gym when I had a fight scheduled. And it was clear. He was gaining weight in between fights. You could see him out hanging out via social media, other boxers. And Errol Spence said at one point in time he got down up to 190 pounds, having to come down to 147. That's a huge number. That's 43 pounds he had to lose. So he was focusing more so on losing weight than strategy, right? And so he still was able to be successful against guys like Shawn Porter, against 4-division world champion Mexican superstar boxer Mikey Garcia. He says that, he was struggling to make the weight. Now, Errol Spence has never missed weight on the scale, but obviously he was putting himself through a rigorous training to be able to get down to this weight. Now he says that he's on weight. He's moved out of the city. He's now in the country. He's bought himself land. He's just hanging out with his family. He trimmed down the size of his entourage, and the people he hangs around with, and he's focused more on the sport of boxing. After the car accident, he's counting his blessings, so to speak, right? And Errol Spence said that there's no lingering effects. Obviously, there's a lot of people talking about Errol Spence, still has his speech is slurring. Errol Spence physically doesn't look the same. Errol Spence probably has a lot of scar tissue, you know, and so I believe that Angel and Danny Garcia are banking on this. This is why this fight was already set to take place before he suffered this car accident. It was set to take place in January of 2019, which saw eventually, because of Errol Spence and the car accident, Danny Garcia eventually fought Ivan Redcash on that date, which was supposed to be, it was January 25th, which was supposed, early 2020, excuse me, I said 2019 or 2020, after Errol Spence had beaten Sean Porter. And so now, you know, with that said, I don't believe that they were banking on this to be victorious but I do believe that this gave them more confidence that they're going to be successful, because the fight was already made before they even knew he had the car accident, before he even had the car accident. So they already thought and felt like they could beat him. And if you listen to what former unified WBC, WBA, welterweight world champion, superstar boxer Keith One-Time Thurman said, who was commentating the broadcast of Sean Porter and Errol Spence, Keith Thurman stated that Danny Garcia was chomping at the bit watching a fight with Sean Porter and Errol Spence, which was a closer fight than most people thought. And Sean Porter had a lot of success. I thought in the 11th round, the knockdown, and then he clearly won the 12th round, was the separation in the fight, that being Errol Spence with Sean Porter. It was a very close fight. So with that said, you know, Keith Thurman said that Danny Garcia was chomping at the bit, saying that if this was me in there, Sean Porter is not known to have a lot of power, but Danny Garcia is saying, if this was me in there and I was landing these punches, I would definitely win this fight. So they had a lot of confidence prior to the car accident. But I believe that the car accident made them even more confident to lead them believe that he's not 100%. He's not 1,000%. Now, Errol Spence, a lot of people felt like Errol Spence should have took a tune-up fight before going into a fight of this magnitude with this level of a fighter. But Errol Spence said that's what he wanted to do. He wanted to prove himself against the best. He didn't want to have a tune-up fight. He wanted to go straight away into in with the best opposition there is. And he already had, he was being a man of his word, because he already had a fight scheduled with Danny Garcia, so he didn't want to alter those plans. So he wanted to continue business as normal, as scheduled. And so he said that he wasn't going to maneuver around Danny Garcia and act like, you know, he had anything to fix because of the car accident. So he said that he was going business as usual. He's going to follow the schedule that was already set forth, and he's going to fight Danny Garcia as planned. So he said that, and he had something to prove, because he felt like there was a lot of doubters even prior to the car accident, especially after the Sean Porter performance, the performance Sean Porter put up against him. He says he felt like there was tons of people already doubting him, and a lot of naysayers. So he said he wanted to prove all these guys wrong. What better way to do so after suffering such a horrific car accident than facing a guy at the level of Danny Garcia? So he says that he wants to make a statement against Danny Garcia. He wants to stop Danny Garcia. He says he wants to, you know, physically and mentally beat him up and force Danny Garcia to quit. Now, Danny Garcia is saying that, and Errol and Angel Garcia, his father, trainer, and manager, that they believe that there's lingering effects. They believed that before the press conference, and after seeing him physically in person at the press conference, that he's not the same guy. So they're saying that they're going to exploit it and expose that, and they're going to be victorious. They're coming back to Philadelphia with the belts from Texas. So obviously, if you saw the video of the car accident, right, most people don't walk away from that type of situation, let alone walk away with minor injuries. That's what Errol Spence did. And so Errol Spence is of the belief that he 1,000% is ready to go. His trainer, legendary trainer of the year, has 2 unified world champions under his belt. Derrick James, he says that they pushed the limits. It was a process, but they got back to what they know to be the norm version of Errol Spence. Errol Spence trained with heavyweights. He trained with cruiserweights. He trained with big guys that hit him with big punches, and he snapped right back, right? There's no lingering effects. Errol Spence obviously has been out the ring for 14 months now. It is going to be ring rust. But also, Danny Garcia has been out the ring 10 months. So there might be a little ring rust on both parts. But I personally We don't know 1,000%, but I think the confidence that Derrick James has, the confidence Errol Spence has, and the confidence that Errol Spence Sr. has, his father, that he is going to be a better version, not the same version, but even better version of the version that we're used to seeing prior to suffering this car accident. Because he's more dialed in, because he's more focused, and physically he's understanding his body and he's taking care of his body. So his father, Derrick James, I don't believe they would allow Errol Spence to go in this fight and make this decision to push him through with this fight. Now, obviously, he's a grown man and he's going to do what he wants to do, but I'm sure Errol Spence is very in tune with his team and obviously his father, and he wouldn't make that type of decision against their best wishes. If they don't believe that he was going to be 100%, if they don't believe that, if they believe that there was lingering effects, if the doctors believe there was lingering effects, I don't believe Errol Spence Jr. would take this chance with his life and his career. So I'm of the belief that Errol Spence is 1,000% healthy. He's 1,000% ready to go. And if Danny Garcia was to win this fight, it would not have anything to do with the car accident. Might have something to do with the ring rust, but it more so just the better man won. Now, obviously, if we see from the first bell, we've seen Errol Spence now on a high level for quite a bit of time now. So if you see the first bell and he don't look the same, obviously that's going to jump right out at us off the screen, right? And we'll know, listen, there's something wrong with Errol Spence. He don't look like the same guy he used to look, right? So we'll immediately know that. And if that's the case, then unfortunately, Danny Garcia will not get the full credit he deserves for beating Errol Spence if Errol Spence don't look the same. But Errol Spence, I believe, like I stated, the doctors know what's best. I believe his father and his trainer, Derrick James, Errol Spence Sr., they would have stated, you don't look the same. We need some more time. Take a break. So I don't know what information Danny Garcia and Angel Garcia is getting, or are they getting what beat they got, or they're just looking to play mind games with Errol Spence at this point in time, you know, to try to force him into a fight that works in their favor. Danny Garcia is not the most athletic, gifted guy. He doesn't have the quick feet, doesn't have the quickest hands in the sport of boxing. He has great timing and he's a great counter puncher, and he has power because he sits down on his punches because he's flat-footed. So he has power. He possesses displays power in both hands because he's sitting down on his punches flat-footed. So he's able to throw those punches with bad intentions because he's not moving around, right? So he get a lot of torque from his hips and his legs because he's sitting down on his punches. So they come out with a lot more torque and a lot more force. But he's limited, right, in that aspect. So Errol Spence is more gifted physically and athletically, and he has more tools in the toolbox. He has the ability to make more adjustments in the fight than Danny Garcia does. He can fight from the outside if he so chooses. He has a reach advantage. He has a 72-inch arm reach. Danny Garcia has a 68.5-inch arm reach. So Errol Spence has longer arms with quicker hands and a better athlete, so he could fight at bay. He has quicker feet to get him in and out of adversity, right? If he wants to be on the inside and there's something coming back, he could get himself physically out of the way faster than Danny Garcia could deliver. So this may be, you know, designed and a plot to get in Errol Spence's head, to get Errol Spence to fight their fight and give them more opportunities. Because Danny Garcia, like I said, he's not proactive, he's reactive. So he needs you to be proactive so that he can react to what you're doing. So with that said, he needs you to give him opportunities so he could be successful. His success depends on your output. So with that said, this may be a ploy for Errol Spence to fight their fight, give him opportunities so he can sit down on his punches. Nonetheless, this is going to be a great fight. I'm expecting Errol Spence to technically be sound, be very cautious, be precise, and be very, very smart in the ring. And I'm expecting him to win a unanimous decision, 8 rounds to 4. I think it's going to the scorecards. I don't see a knockdown in this fight unless it's a flash knockdown. And I do expect to see some big punches landed every now and then, but for the most part, I'm expecting a high-level chess match. I don't believe there's going to be any lingering effects from the car accident, mentally or physically. I think that there may be some ring rust on the part of both guys, but eventually Errol Spence will find his timing. Danny Garcia, like I stated, his timing hinges on Errol Spence's output. So I think both guys are very, very smart, have a high ring IQ, but I just think that Errol Spence is more versatile, so he'll be victorious. And I don't see any lingering effects from the car accident playing a part. But drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know what y'all think. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy Blue, Blue Blood Sports TV. Hate, like, comment, and subscribe. You haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bell icon to get all the new notifications. Follow me on Instagram at Blue Blood Sports TV, all one word. Y'all already know what it is. Shouts out to the entire LDBC. Shouts out to New Media. Shouts out to Black Media Row. Make sure you like and share these videos. That's all I got for y'all. Peace.